Did you know that 1 in 8 kids in Atlanta will go hungry tonight? Eating healthy, balanced meals is essential for kids to learn and grow. That's why Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield and education nonprofit Common Threads have teamed up to help schools learn about healthier food preparation. In Atlanta, they're joined by the Dream and will provide education, recipes, and knowledge to students and families about healthier options. Visit anthem.com/dream to learn more. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the trade name of Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthcare Plan of Georgia, Inc.
I'm Victoria Cash, and I want to invite you to a place called Lucky Land, where you can play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. So what are you waiting for? The best way to discover your luck is to spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com, that's LuckyLandSlots.com, and get lucky today. At Lucky Land. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Giants Top 100 Players presented by Bud Light. I'm Bob Papa as we continue our countdown to the top 100 players in the history of the franchise. And I'm joined by Vinny DiTrani, who spent 42 years covering the National Football League, 34 years covering the Giants, and 12 years as a Hall of Fame voter. And Vinny, this was an interesting process. Over 5,000 men have worn a Giants uniform since 1925, and we had the task of whittling it down to the top 100. Wasn't easy, was it?
It was not easy at all, no. I mean, especially you're trying to compare one era to another era. You know, numbers, you can't really go with numbers anymore because, you know, receivers now are catching, 100 passes a year. They used to catch 30 passes a year. So it wasn't very easy at all, no. But I had the privilege of watching these Giants in the 50s when, we had Connerly and Gifford and those guys. I was in high school, used to watch from the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. So I saw those guys, and then I saw, the group with George when, with Parcells, and then with Justin with Coughlin. So, I saw all these guys, but trying to put them together and say which ones are the best, it was not easy at all.
No, and we're gonna go through numbers 21 through 30 here, and let's start with number 25, George Martin. George, when you think about the history of this franchise, and you were here during the lean times to deliver the Giants their first championship in 30 years, what does it mean to be acknowledged by this very blue ribbon panel of being the 25th greatest player in the history of the franchise?
Bob, it's a great question. And first of all, before I answer, let me just say I'm deeply honored. It's a real privilege for me, especially being an 11th round draft choice. But to share the stage with someone like Justin Tuck today, it's been really, really something that's it's unbelievable. So I really want to applaud you guys for having this forum for guys like us, and it's absolutely amazing. Looking back over my career, I was just fortunate to have been selected by an organization which I think is one of the class organizations in the National Football League. And even though it was during an era where, as you say, we weren't, the toast of the town, we emerged and eventually became Super Bowl champions. And that's just something that I will take to my grave as being one of the greatest accomplishments in my life.
Elway is looking for a target, goes out to the right side, intercepted, George Martin! 30, 45, at the 45, Elway takes him and breaks the tackle. 40, 35, 30 for Martin, Martin to the 20, Martin to the 10, he's in!
Hey, George, have you ever run that far with the football?
Never? You got to be kidding. With the ball? Never.
George, when Super Bowl 21, when halftime, you're down 10-9.
Yeah.
But you knew you were the better team.
Backs up to the 2. He's in the end zone. He got him. Safety. George Martin is the man.
Yeah, we knew we were the better team. Although we were a little bit concerned, I think we were more, and I'll be honest with you, we had come from a cold weather climate on the East Coast and all the way out to a hot weather climate. And I think it was just the temperature, the adjustment that we were getting used to. And once the sun went down and we acclimated, it was a different ball game altogether. Yeah. We had that confidence at halftime, and Parcells was exuding that confidence because he says, guys, he says, we got it. He says, keep your poise. He kept saying, keep your poise, and fight, and we will become champions. And when you're that close to becoming, you're going to do everything within humanly possible to make sure you get over the hump, and that's what we did.
The rest of your life, man, nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did it.
Justin, you come in at number 30 on this list. When you think about all the great players and the great defensive players that came with the 86 and 90 Giants, and in the 50s, to have your name kind of etched in stone as a two-time Super Bowl champion and being number 30 on this list is pretty amazing, isn't it?
I mean, similar to George, man, I'm a kid from Kelton, Alabama. There's almost more people on this list than it is in my hometown. I mean, as a kid, I think everybody told me that they saw me like playing at a higher level, because I guess I was the best athlete in my town at my age. So everybody's kind of like saying that, you know, you're gonna play in the league, you're gonna do this. But I never really gave it much thought. So from that perspective, like, it's a dream to even be in the running or even in the mention. When I think about the Giants and, like, you know, what I wanted to embody as a Giant, it was more important about what you did off the field. So being able to, like, represent this franchise, which I think is the best in the NFL, not just one of the best. I do think that it is the best, and I hate to have been in your shoes to have to put this down to 100 players, because I feel like there's 100 defensive players that could have been on this list by itself, and then, like, we're biased defensive ends. I feel like there's probably 20 defensive ends that could have been
at least.
Exactly, right. So, like, one, thank you for putting this together. Thank you guys for even having my name in the running. But again, when you think about this list and you think about my time at the Giants, I got the opportunity to not only play with great players, but be tutored and mentored by great people of what it meant to be a part of this franchise. And I tried to embody that throughout my entire career, and I still try to embody that today. So thank you guys.
George, is that something that kind of makes the Giants unique in the sense that paying it forward? You know, you were a great player. You were mentored when you came along, and then to know that you kind of helped pass the baton to the next great Giant teams.
Yeah. I've always had the philosophy, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And what was done to me was there are a group of guys, along with the organization, that took me under their wing and sort of nurtured me and tutored me. It's a difference between being a football player and a professional athlete. And that distinction was made to me almost immediately. And it was supported, I think, very affirmatively by the organization itself. Yeah, you're here to become a professional athlete in the sport of football, but there's also an obligation that you have as a player off the field, you know, to the general public, the people who support you. And that was something that I loved about this organization almost immediately. They integrated us with a lot of organizations that looked up to us, and we helped to support them by them helping support us. And having those early mentors to set the stage for us was, I think, was just it was just invaluable.
One thing I've learned about covering the Giants is that most of the guys in that locker room, whatever year it was, were good, straight guys. And the organization seemed to go for those kind of players, like the two of you, that, you know, who are good, solid citizens as well as really good football players. Yeah.
Justin, obviously a two-time Super Bowl champion. You played with so many great players. When you think back on your time with the team, what were some of the things that the most fun? I mean, obviously sacking Brady twice in Super Bowls is pretty good. Not doing it once, but twice.
Brady back, has time, steps up, gets hit, sacked, fumble the football, it's loose on the ground, they scramble for it. Giant ball at midfield.
Brady back to throw, steps up, sacked again, back at the 15-yard line. Justin Tuck got in there.
The game stuff, I got to be reminded about the game stuff because we played so many games. We had so many good moments.
Brady is back. He's under pressure and he gets sacked at the 13-yard line.
But, like, I kind of blacked out in games. And, like, you watch the film and, like, you remember, okay, I remember doing that, right? But some of the stuff in the Super Bowls, you kind of just forget about it a little bit. So, like, my answer to that question won't be anything on the football field. It's more the stuff around the travel. It's more about the stuff around the locker room. We're going here to bury a dynasty. Business as usual. Holla. A lot of times people ask me, what did I miss most about playing in the NFL? It's like, the first thing is the checks. That's the first thing. But the second thing is just the camaraderie around all of us coming from different walks of life, whether that be the West Coast, the East Coast, you know, whether that be what our beliefs are, what are our family dynamics, all these different things. And I was blessed to be captain of this team for a lot of years. Your job is to figure out how to bring 53 guys to pull the rope the same direction.
I'm mad at y'all won it today. I got a ring. Chris, you ain't got one. You don't know what it feel like. Rock, you ain't got one. You don't know what it feel like. Limber, you ain't got one. You don't know what it feel like. Boss, you ain't got one. You don't know what it feel like. I'm telling you right now, it's the best feeling in the world. And if it's on me today, you gonna have one after this.
And we were blessed to do that better than most 2 years out of the years I was here. And that's the difference, I think, is as far as like what I think about now versus when you're in the moment, you just don't think about these things. But now that I'm past that and I'm out of it, I look back and be like, man, I remember having this discussion with whoever, JPP, around how to play the 3 technique in 3rd and 5+ situations, and him, the look in his eyes when he got it, right, or whatever else. Those are the things you miss and you feel pretty proud about because you know you had an impact on, whether that be the individual or the team or, in a lot of cases, both.
I echo those sentiments, by the way, almost identically, because I think people confuse the fact that we can be, quote unquote, football players without being football fans.
Yep.
And that's what basically he's saying, because, you have the opportunity to go out there and do something that is a vocation. It's a job. And I always tell people when they ask me, say, weren't you a football player? And I said, not really. I said, what do you do for a living? And they say, well, I'm a banker, I'm a professional. And I say, well, so too were I on a professional level. We don't play football, we work at it. It's a job. And that's the way we approach it, as a vocation. And the better you are able to do it, and I'll give an example, because Bill Parcells used to pull me aside all the time. And Bill was a no-nonsense guy. I don't mean to get ahead of the game here, but no. But he was always demanding more of the leadership than he was of the rank and file. And that's something I always respected and admired about him. It's not about how you just go out and play when the ball is snapped, but what happens when that ball is not being snapped, and what are you doing to make yourself and the team around you better?
You played for Parcells. Mm-hmm. You played for Tom Coughlin. How important were those guys in this whole, leadership thing? I mean, how important was that last game in the first Super Bowl year when you played the Patriots? And he played all, he didn't have to play anybody. He played everyone because the Patriots are going for that unbeaten season.
Oh, the Giants are in the playoffs. They ain't got nothing to play for. Rest their guys so they don't get hurt. These in the playoffs too. What did they come out here? Why ain't they got sitting on the bench? But I'm gonna tell you right now, you gonna put them on the fire.
Even though you didn't win, how important was that to that team to play that well in that game?
It wasn't the game that set the precedent. I think that game cemented the fact that we were going to do things the right way. There was no way Coach Coughlin was going to allow us to go out there and shame the league by not giving your all. I think the Patriots could have been 3-12 at that time. I think we still would have played. I just think it cemented in our mind that, we're going to do things the right way. I think that game set the precedent of what the rest of our year is going to look like. In the playoffs, how we ate food was different. It just had a different feel to it. And again, that is, I think, the first ripple in that pond was the leadership of Coach Coughlin saying, coming in the first meeting after the week started to play New England was, we're going to play. And we're going to play it the right way. And to answer your question, it had so much to do with how we played against them in the Super Bowl. Because again, you got a team that's bound to be 18-1. They have absolutely ran shop against everybody we played. We came into that game with absolutely no fear, and honestly believed that we were a better team. Because people don't know this, but we didn't game plan for them going into that regular season game. Mm-hmm. Not really. We kind of, vanilla it, because we already knew we was playing Tampa in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So we hadn't even put together a real typical game plan for the New England. We just went out there and played freely. And I think from a personal standpoint, that's the game I realized that nobody on that O-line could block, neither me, Strahan, OC. So how are they going to win if they can't block us? So when we went in that game, it was Tom Coughlin, the head of the snake, we're going to rip the head off that snake.
As you went on to win that second Super Bowl, it wasn't an easy year in 2011, but that senior leadership that George is talking about, how important was that to have in that group, and what was your thought process in trying to guide this team through?
When I look back at that year and years like it, right, I think it is that leadership. It is that kind of trying to pull guys along that makes the difference. Because like you said, we weren't playing that well as a whole, especially, or at least for what I felt as though on the defensive side of the ball. And I had to battle through some injuries there and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's easy for kind of like the elder statesman or the captain or the person that people look to when they're not having their typical year or their, for whatever reason, to kind of be like, woe is me. Mm-hmm. But like, you talked about Parcells pulling you aside, and like me and Coughlin talked a ton that year, and he kind of put me in this situation. It was like, Justin, you're gonna get help. You're gonna be there for us in the end, but like, we got this kid over here, this number 90, JPP. He needs someone to get in his ear. He needs someone to like kind of pull the ropes, and that kind of was for me that year, kind of like a saving grace, because like you get the opportunity to pour into these younger players and you start to see them develop, and then you realize, maybe I wasn't that good when I first came either. I wasn't this all-pro player when I first came in, and you start thinking about all the things that people had done, obviously Michael and OC and Antonio Pierce and all the things that they had done to like help you get to where you got to. So you start to see that in yourself. And like for me, it was kind of like, that's probably what kept me going. I think that's something that I personally wanted to be known for. You said yours was like, do unto others as you have done me. Mine is pay it forward, because you never can pay it back. Right? Think about all the things that people have done for me or whoever it is that you never know. You don't know who said a kind word or put you in position to be successful. So like for me, it's like the only thing I can do in this moment, I can't get on the field and help my team win by sacking quarterbacks and stuffing the run, but I can by being another set of eyes for all these players at this time. So I think that's one of the more special moments in my career where things weren't going necessarily how I wanted them to go, but it gave you the opportunity to kind of step back and really understand just how valuable these moments are, just how important other people are in other people's lives as far as, on their journey. And it worked out. It
was a struggle, but Eli was amazing.
Oh, Eli.
Defense got healthy when it needed to, and suddenly the running game came alive. People forget you guys were 30th in rushing offense that season.
And people forget just how, I don't know if they forget, but like just how different that was from being like one of the most premier running attacks in the league in 2008 and so on and so forth, to kind of having that down year that year. But again, you get right at the right times. And that's why this ain't about what we're talking about today, but like it's just so fascinating with me about all these teams with so much talent that never kind of get over the hump, and just how important leadership is. I think leadership is far more valuable than talent.
Absolutely.
And you think about this list. I think that's what this list has a lot of guys who obviously has tremendous talent, but what put us to the next level? Like, I guarantee you, if you said it to me in Georgetown, as much crap as we talk about our talent or how fast we could run or how, none of us really feel like we were the most talented person in our own era, in our own, when I look at some of the guys I played against, I'm looking at talent-wise, I'm like, good God. Yeah. But like, how we looked at things as a whole, leadership, character, what we did on the field, off the field, that's what I think really, really embodies this list as far as, the top 100 players in Giants history.
I want to talk about some of the other guys in this group of 21 to 30. You have Leonard Marshall, who's a two-time Super Bowl champion, who comes in at number 26 on this list. Let me ask you about Leonard, number 26 on this list as a teammate, because obviously you guys won a title together. Yeah. He came in as a young pup. Your thoughts about him as a player?
Leonard went from what we commonly used to say from the outhouse to the penthouse, because he came in as a high draft choice, and there were expectations of him immediately. And unfortunately, Leonard didn't gravitate to those right off the bat. And one of the things that he was noted for was he was so tired one day in training camp, he said, hey, Coach, I'm blowing out. And that became his nickname for a while, Blowout Man. And so, but he not only achieved the expectations, he excelled. And Leonard was a complete ball player. Whereas, me, I was kind of elusive and sort of a pass rushing specialist. Leonard with two gap, He'd chase down the run. He'd stop the offensive line, and he would rush the passer with efficiency and tenacity. And that's why he made All-Pro, and that's why he went to 2 Super Bowls.
Attaboy, Lenny.
And by the way, he had a guy beside him that kind of made him a little bit better because of the tenacity that number 56 brought. So that was a great combination over there on that right side.
Yeah, and Vinny, I mean, the 1990 NFC Championship game where Montana gets knocked out.
Plenty of time, rolls away now, runs away, eludes a tackle, his head fumbles the ball. Free ball.
Leonard Marshall caught him with his helmet right in the middle of the back, upper part of the back. A good legit hit.
I mean, Leonard is blocked not once but twice, gets off the ground.
He comes all the way around.
And comes all the way around and basically ends Montana's career with the Niners because he didn't play the next year and enter Steve Young. But that was kind of symbolic of what that team was about.
George is right. I mean, I remember when Leonard came in, everyone, this guy was a high draft pick. And then, eventually he evolved. He learned. He got better. His skill got better. His shape. He got in better shape.
He did.
And he became a really excellent player. And he, like you say, he and LT on that one side, boy, that was pretty potent.
Yeah, he exceeded expectations.
Great pass rushers. When you think about these guys, what's the common trait that you all had?
Hating quarterbacks.
Here.
But also, I think versatility too, right? Watching George play, watching Leonard play, we could play any position in the front. We really could. You see us line up at right end, left end, 3 technique, 1 technique. In some cases, stand up and rush from back. As a joker package, stuff like that. I think that's the one thing I tried to make sure that I did a lot of, because in this league, you're gonna become the old guy, or you're gonna become the guy that's not as good as you used to be. Yep. And you stick around by being able to do multiple things. That puts a wrinkle in a lot of things that offenses like to do. So I think that's the common thing, the trait I look at from some of these pass rushers we're talking about.
I was part of that gradual evolution that took place over time, because when I first came into the Giants, it was a 4-3 defense.
Right.
And then we eventually evolved to a 3-4 defense. And that your qualifications, your requirements, your talents have to adjust to that. And then inevitably, over the evolution of my career, I became a specialist, a pass rushing specialist. But people forget that I was also I was a third tight end on offense, because they always ask me how many. They say, I see you you made 7 touchdowns in your career. And I have to correct them. I said, no, I didn't make 7, I made 8. And they won't give me credit for the 8th one because I made it as a tight end. But that just speaks to the diversity that is required in professional athletics.
Parcells used to say, the ball finds him, the ball comes to him.
7 touchdowns.
Number 21 on this list is Ernie Weinmeister. He was a guy that started in the old AFL with the New York Yankees and winds up coming to the Giants. But he was also a quarterback who basically, NFL history says, he was the first star defensive player.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, even before, the defense didn't really become popular until the Giants in the 50s with Huff and all those guys. That kind of brought the defense to, till then it was all, offense. But I think he was one of the first players back in the dead ball years, shall we say, he was a defensive stalwart. I think he may well be the first really star defensive player.
Another guy I want to ask you about, Brad Van Pelt. Because I know as a kid, he was like my favorite player.
Yeah.
And a linebacker wearing number 10.
Yeah.
Coming out of Michigan State. But as dominant a player as there was in the NFL.
He was my LT, and that's quite a statement. Brad was, he was just unreasonably talented. Because if you look at him, he was tall, he was kind of gangly, but he had such determination and he had such just raw ability. He was phenomenal. And I think had it not been for his abilities over there complimenting mine, I probably not have made it early on, because he shut the run down and he pressured the passer, and he had great depth to get to the drop zone to defend the pass. When the ball was snapped, he was 100%.
You think about what he did in college. I mean, I don't think any player now in major colleges can do this anymore. He was an All-American safety in the fall. He was a starting forward on basketball team at Michigan State. And in the spring, he was a star relief pitcher who was actually drafted in the first round by the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals baseball team in 1973.
He was drafted in all 3 sports, right?
He was all 3 sports.
Yeah.
I mean, how many guys in college now can do that? Yeah. And I think one of the reasons the Giants were able to draft him in the second round in 73 was because a lot of teams thought he was going to play baseball.
Right, exactly.
So he dropped into the second round. The Giants were able to get him. But, yeah, I mean, how many guys, you know, I know there have been 2-sport guys like Bo Jackson and, you know, Kyler Murray, you know, guys who play baseball, football, but all 3 sports. I mean, you can't do that anymore because, you know, you get your one sport. You know, football, you got spring football, you got your off season. It's hard to play, but he played all 3 starters and was a contributor in all 3 sports.
Number 22 on this list, Jim Cabbage. We're keeping it on the defensive thing.
Another defensive end.
13 years. I mean, it wasn't an official stat, but when the Giants made it to the NFL championship game in '63, by today's metrics of looking back at the game tape and everything else, he would have had 25 sacks that season.
Yeah. He was kind of overshadowed at first because he played with Andy Robustelli and Huff. Sure. And, you know, Jimmy Patton and Rosie Greer and, you know, Dick Lynch and Erich Barnes. You know, that was a great defense. And he was kind of like, you know, a guy who was there. But, you know, he developed into a really star player on his own. And I have to make a plug here. He went to University of Dayton, which where I went. So, but anyway, he really was kind of underrated until he really, you know, till those guys left, and then he became like the star.
And you have to put things in context too, Bob, because it was a more of an abbreviated season back those days.
Right. Yeah, those were 12 games.
Exactly.
That was before they even went to 14.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that was a heck of a stat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they didn't throw the ball as much either.
I was going to that point. Like it wasn't like they were throwing 50 times a game.
Although Tittle was 63, because his 36 touchdowns that year, that record stood until Marino broke it in '84. Which is pretty interesting. So speaking of offense, guys that you don't like because they're trying to score and you're trying to stop them to score, but Del Schaffner, 23 on this list.
Well, that changed. He and Tittle changed that whole team. I mean, until then, it was defense. You know, Connerly, you know, they plugged Gifford and Webster, and they plugged along on offense. There's a story that defense got a turnover one day, and Robustelli was coming off the field, and Kyle Rote was going on, and Robustelli said to them, "Okay, now hold them."
Go out and hold them. Right.
But then when Tittle and Schaffner got there, it changed the whole thing. I mean, I remember sitting in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. 50 cents we could get into the game. In 50 cents in your high school card, you could sit in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium and watch those guys, and you know, they were just phenomenal. Schaffner was such a smooth player. I mean, and you know, and Tittle, of course, had his best years with the Giants.
18 yards a catch during his Giant career.
I know. I mean, he was just so
incredible.
Not bad.
I mean, I was there today. He had, 12 catches against this poor Claude Crabb, was the cornerback for the Redskins. He just killed them. And then,
speaking of Kyle Rote, he's 24 on this list, and maybe one, you know, like these guys talking about leadership and fellowship within their team. Kyle Rote was maybe the most popular player on his team. What was it, like 7 guys?
They named their sons.
Named their sons Kyle.
Yeah.
Were teammates because they respected him so much.
Right. Yeah.
That's a pretty big bet.
Yeah.
I mean, he made the adjustment from running back to receiver also.
Here is a Giant thrill of the year. Rote slips like quicksilver into the open. He outruns the field for 52 yards. Rote comes back on his own college gridiron. The Giants win it 24-6.
Yeah, he was a terrific little, I mean, compared to some of these bigger guys, but he was a terrific player.
Number 27 on the list. Let's talk about Homer Jones, because I think Giants fans, you know, they think of Odell and his explosive plays, and they think it's Monty Toomer, franchise all-time leading receiver, and Victor Cruz, and there's been a list of them. But Homer Jones really is the standard. 22 yards a catch for his carear.
22 yards a catch for his career?
For his career.
Wow, that's
up there. Where does that stand, like, historically? Like,
well, in 1967, he had 49 catches. He averaged 24 yards a catch, and he scored 13 touchdowns. Dude. And he finished his career, for any receiver in the history of the NFL, with at least 200 receptions. He has the most yards per catch of any player in the history of the sport, 22.26.
That's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And inventing the spike.
That's right, he invented the spike.
Invented the spike.
More than worthy of the top 100, wouldn't you say?
That's what's crazy about that is, like, he's 27.
Yeah.
There's 26 in the Giants' history.
That's right.
Jeez.
I went to Giant camp one year, and before I started covering them, actually, and Allie Sherman was the coach, and he said, "I'm calling the special teams the money teams now." So because he wanted a lot of his regulars to play on the special teams.
Yeah.
And one of them was Homer Jones. He wanted him to return kicks.
Yeah.
And so Homer Jones says, "Okay, I'll return kicks." He says, "But I'm not going to return punts." And somebody said, "Well, why not?" He says, "Because the ball's up there and everything that can hurt you is down here, and I can't watch both of them at the same time, so I'm not returning punts." But he did.
All right, so number 29, let's talk a little bit about Joe Morrison.
Joe Morrison.
And what he brought to the table.
Joe Morrison was a quarterback at the University of Cincinnati. But the Giants drafted him as a halfback, running back. But then Morrison went on to played running back, fullback, wide receiver, tight end. And people forget, 1961 championship game in Green Bay, he was a starting strong safety for the Giants. So his versatility was incredible. And the numbers he put up just on his longevity are great. And, very talented player again.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. It is such an honor to sit here with both of you.
Thank you.
Once a Giant, always a Giant. And now once a Giant, always a Giant, a top 100 Giant. When I say that to George Martin, what do you think?
I think someone made a mistake. No, seriously, it's an honor that I could never dream of. And the organization, as Justin said earlier, it's the top of the list. And you are a member of an elite denotion within that organization. And it's something that will outlive me, and I'm so proud of that. But I'm also proud of the guys who I've called teammates. It's just unfathomable. I had to have a hard time comprehending it. It's been the greatest thing in my life.
Justin, same question for you. Once a Giant, always a Giant, now forever a top 100 of all time.
I think legacy is so important to me. Being from where I'm from, to get to do the things that I've gotten to do, to be around the people that I've gotten to be around, to have the experiences I've got to experience. I really am somewhat at loss of words for like what this truly means. And it'll sit in over time as my kids understand it more as I get older, et cetera, et cetera. But being on this list, being a part of this franchise, being in the same breath of people like George and everybody on this list, just truly blessed, truly blessed to be a part of it, and also humbled in a way to know you guys had to narrow this down to 100 players. You could have been at 500 and it still would have been just as difficult. When you think about the names of guys that we played with, that we've heard about. Yeah. I don't know what it means yet, to be honest with you, but I know it's definitely special. I know it's something that, like Georgia said, will live beyond me, and hopefully, for all those fans out there they'll watch this and see this list, they'll realize all the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into it. And to George's point, it wasn't just that we was playing football. It was a vocation. We approached it as such, and it's something that just is super, super special.
Guys, thank you so much. Vinny, thank you for your work as far as helping us get this list together.
It actually was kind of fun. I mean, it was difficult, but it was kind of fun to go trying to, who does this go? Where does this guy go? And then when you see the list and say, well, gee, I didn't have that guy that high, and and you wonder why, or I had this guy higher than other people, and it was a mind thing. It really was.
I'll get that check to you, Vinny.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I think I voted for you, George.
Giants fans, you check out all the Giants social media platforms as we continue our countdown to the top 100 players in the history of the New York Football Giants. So for George Martin, Justin Tuck, Vinny DiTrani, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Giants Top 100 Players presented by Bud Light.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
The fall is creeping up on us, but we don't have to give in just yet because summer doesn't stop in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You can still get out and enjoy 60 miles of beaches, eat in the South's newest foodie haven with over 2,000 restaurants, and have endless fun at hundreds of attractions. Hold on to that sweet summer feeling a little longer at the beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Plan your trip at visitmyrtlebeach.com. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com.